The 58-hour water maintenance by Rand Water has been completed on a major pipeline. Nqobile Madlala has been visiting various parts of Johannesburg to take a look at whether water has returned to some areas. Nqobile Madlala, I believe you are now in Fourways and you're standing by to speak to Rand Water. What's the situation where you are now?
Well, Fourways is one of those areas that are still affected and they still don't have water. But we are hearing that the northern part, as well as the West Rand, are the areas that are still affected when it comes to water. But of course, that also comes with where you are, so high-lying areas being the ones that are mostly affected. I'm going to bring in Nqobile now to speak to us from Joburg Water. Of course, I know that you are coming from that meeting with Rand Water as well, where everybody had put their heads together, and I think everyone at home just wants to know, when will they possibly see that water coming out of the tap?
Thank you, Nqobile, and good afternoon to the viewers. Thank you for this opportunity as well. Today we can confirm that the Rand Water shutdown, that big milestone, is completed, and now we are back into full operation in terms of the pumping capacity. However, most of our systems are still empty. If you are looking at the systems from the Randburg, Rotterport and certain sections of Fourways, they still do not have water. And we have communicated with residents and customers of Johannesburg Water that the systems will recover differently. Some of the systems in the high-lying areas will recover quicker, some will recover slowly, as Ekenhof is pumping at full capacity. We are expecting the systems within Rotterport and Randburg to take between 5 days and 10 days to fully restore water. But it does not mean that there won't be a drop of water at the depth. It just means we'll have a situation of low pressure, then no water, then low pressure, then as the system is starting to charge up and recover fully. Thank you.
And I mean, when you talk about your system saying that they're not yet in full capacity, are we then speaking about reservoirs? Perhaps explain to us how the system works.
Thank you so much. I'm referring to the systems. Firstly, if we could touch quickly, there were 3 systems that supply Johannesburg Water that were affected by the shutdown, which is your Dale site. That was the shortest part of this maintenance project, which has recovered on the second day, which was Wednesday. Then your second milestone was your Zwartkoppies, which recovered. We started to see recovery on Thursday. And today we have recovery on there. And the major one, which was 58 hours, was Ekenhof system. A Rand Water system pump water to Johannesburg Water system, which is systems I'm referring to, the reservoirs that supplies ultimately the communities. So the system that we have now fully recover are those ones that are in the deep south. Those ones, they have been restored and they are operating normally. There may still be pocket of low pressure there and there as the system is taking time, but those systems are fully recovered. If you come to Johannesburg Water, CBD, Johannesburg Water, the northern part, like your Parktown, your Uville, those systems now have received water. CBD, this morning we had good flows and we were pumping to the entire CBD at full capacity, but the system is taking time to recover and we are back to low pressures, but the CBD have water currently. Your Parktown is receiving water as well, but we're still experiencing low pressure because the systems are recovering, as well as your Uville as well is receiving water. Then we go to the side that is severely affected, that is your Rotterport and your Randburg. Those areas, the reservoirs and the towers are still empty. They will start seeing some improvement later today as the Rand Water systems are charging as well. They are also delivering some of the flows or some of the water to Johannesburg Water system, which those systems will also recover, especially during off-peak at night. We usually get a quicker recovery, and during the day, because there's higher demand and higher consumption in the systems, then we usually lose some of those systems. Thank you.
And I mean, there's a part though where we mostly concerned with the stage 6 that the country is currently under in terms of power outages. How does that affect what you are currently doing, especially the recovery process? Because we know that, like you're saying, you have to pump water somehow. So how does that affect this process?
Thank you so much for that question. Johannesburg Water systems, where we've got water towers, We usually have a problem when we've got stage 6 load shedding. Some of those areas are not yet exempted, and we require the city power, the normal Eskom supply, to be supplying us. Now, when we don't have the power supply to those systems, the reservoirs areas will usually get water because they are supplied directly from rainwater systems, but the towers which we now need to pump from Johannesburg water site for those higher lying areas, they will be affected. And it is unfortunate because we were not even anticipating the higher stages of load shedding currently, because we were of the view that Eskom have managed to remedy some of their generation capacities and so forth. So we were also relying on that. It will sort of assist. If we've got normal power on our system, we'll start recovering Johannesburg water towers. Unfortunately, now those towers will take longer because they will only pump when there's electricity, and when there's no electricity, they won't be pumping, which means we will take longer now to recover those systems than what has been initially planned. Thank you.
And I mean, when you talk about those areas that need then to be pumped from the towers, are we speaking about high-lying areas? And which roughly are these areas that potentially could be affected because of stage 6?
Thank you. We've got a number of reservoirs that are in the Roodepoort areas. In the mountainous areas, you will see the landmarks will be our towers, where we need to pump from the lower lying areas, which our reservoirs will relatively be lower, and the pump station will sit where the reservoir is, and we have to pump higher all the way so that that water can gravity feed the communities. Now, those areas that are situated above the reservoirs generally will not have water, and it could be wider areas. Randburg have also a couple of towers that are situated in Randburg area. So those people, or those customers that are supplied from the tower zones, the communities will know whether they are supplied from the tower zone or from the reservoir zone. If you are in the tower zone, it will take longer if the load shedding persists and we cannot continue pumping at the normal rate.
And lastly then, for those communities that have to wait longer, what is the contingency plan for them?
We will continue providing alternate water supply through the mobile or roaming trucks, and we have stationary tanks that are situated in predetermined areas where the communities already know where to find those areas, and the trucks will continue to supply water to the communities until the full restoration of water to each household or to each customer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That is Joburg Water. Just as you can hear there, they're saying that some areas are affected differently. This, of course, depends whether you're in low-lying areas or in high-lying areas. So Roodepoort being one of those places that are in high-lying areas. Earlier on, we spoke to people that were in Ramsach, and they said they haven't received a drop of water. And now we're finding out this is because they are in those tower zones, and they, of course, are affected by this stage 6 power cuts.
Nqobile Madlala, thank you very much for that update.